Bloom News Brief. More info at fullandbloom.com. A&R legend Tom Zutaut was recently interviewed on the X5 podcast. A link to the entire interview can be found in the description. On why he left Elektra for Geffen Records, Zutaut said, "David Geffen called me while I was at Elektra. He literally said to me, 'Listen, I'm just going to cut through the bullshit. I'm the best guy in the music business and I want you to come work for me.' And I said, 'Well, there are some stumbling blocks.' And he goes, 'Let's get together and talk about it in person.' I had lunch with him in some hidden place where nobody would see me with him. I didn't want to lose the vice presidency job I had at Elektra. At 22, I'm vice president at a record label. You don't want to walk away from that right away." I said to him, "Look, we got a real problem. My percentage override on all the acts I signed is paying a lot of money, but it's like a handcuff. If I leave, I lose all that money." David goes, "I'll just write you a check for whatever that loss is, and I'll pay you 7 figures a year." And I thought, well, that's double what I'm making now, and he's going to make me good on all the royalties I'm going to lose. Meanwhile, my contract is up for renewal at Elektra Records, and they're offering me some big things there too, like doubling my royalty rate, doubling my salary. It was tough, but David Geffen said one thing to me, and he kept his word until he sold the company and started DreamWorks. He goes, "Tom, look, money is money. But what I'll do for you is I will give 1,000% support to every single creative decision that you have." One thing that always bothered me at Elektra is they had bean counters. Well, this is a new band. We're not going to do a gatefold jacket. So imagine Shout at the Devil without that gatefold jacket. That was freaking powerful. I said to David Geffen, "If I want to do a poster fold-out album cover, are you going to let me do it? Or are you going to have a bean counter tell me no?" He said, "Whatever you think needs to be done creatively. I'll support you 1,000%. I said, "What if I get a contract and I spend $300,000 making a record and I need to remake that record and get another $300,000 that wasn't in the contract?" David said, "Done. On your word to me." So now I've got 6 months left on my contract with Elektra. I've got to figure out how I'm going to stay at Elektra for 6 months. There's a big royalty check at stake. They were quarterly, and I don't want to miss out because it's a big one. As far as futures, David is going to make that up to me. So I stay at Elektra, even though David and I both know that I'm going to be leaving. While I'm still at Elektra, I find City Kid. Later, I name the band Tesla. I tell them, "You guys gotta wait." And also, I told Lars Ulrich, "Just wait." And he goes, "Well, we're in a fucking lawsuit. We can't wait." So I did this really clever deal, and we loaned Metallica the money to fight Megaforce and Jonny Z in that lawsuit. If they lost the lawsuit, they'd have to pay Elektra back. And if they won the lawsuit, they were signed to Elektra. Well, I knew I was leaving. They couldn't wait, so I transitioned the band to a guy named Michael Alago. And of course, he claims he signed them. But I did the deal that brought them to Elektra in the first place. I was actually gone when they finally worked out that settlement with Jonny Z and left Megaforce, and ended up signing the actual Elektra contract after I turned them over to Alago. And I even said to him, "I can't tell you why I'm going to turn this over to you, but you like this metal stuff, so go for it, kiddo." He made a whole documentary about how he discovered them and signed Metallica and left me out of it. But that's LA, that's Hollywood, that's New York, that's the record business. During an interview with Michael Alago, the A&R rep talked about his history with Metallica. Signing Metallica in the summer of 1984 to Elektra Records, I would say is my proudest achievement as an A&R executive. I started doing A&R for Elektra Records in 1983. I got very friendly with a bunch of independent labels. One of those labels was Megaforce. They were truly a small indie label at the time. I was speaking to Jonny Z and he said, "Michael, we have this band that we think is going to be huge. We don't think we can get them there on Megaforce. They're called Raven. You gotta do something here." So I gave Megaforce $5,000 for a demo for Raven. During that time, I heard Kill 'Em All. It ripped my fucking head off. I had no idea what the fuck was going on. It didn't sound like old school metal. These were young people who were mixing and matching all forms of hard rock and punk and classic metal to make this thing. It was a very unique thing called Metallica. So I get the demos back from Raven, and they were excellent, but my heart wasn't really there. It was almost a bit too traditional for me. I saw Metallica at L'Amour in Brooklyn in 1982. I saw them at the Stone in San Francisco in 1983, and I introduced myself to Lars and gave him my phone number. Later, Lars called me up and told me they were going to play in New York the summer of 1984 with Anthrax and Raven. I went to the show. Like I said, they ripped my head off. I was a little drunk at the show, and I went backstage and bolted for the door. I told the guys, I love you. I have to have you in my life. Come to my office. The very next day, they were in my office at Elektra. We struck a deal with Megaforce where they would get a point on the next 2 records in perpetuity. It was really quite extraordinary how that all happened. And you know, they felt my energy. I was the same age as them, and I was going to get shit done for them. More news at bullandbloom.com.